So as a woman, what are you willing to sacrifice for? Are you willing to sacrifice more for your family, or are you willing to sacrifice more so that career? And having that distinction in mind is
Why
very...
are you yelling at me?
So ladies, what are your number one priorities in life at this current moment? And do you think they're conducive to finding the man you want to inevitably settle down with? Also, big W for the show earlier.
The reason this conversation is confusing me, or this topic in general, just because it's just not binary. It's not like you gotta not have a career to have a husband, and you gotta and if you have a career, you can't have it's like, it's not binary. Like, you can have two things can be true, bro. It's like, what you're saying is, the guy may not care, right? Oh, she's a fucking CEO, let me fuck her, right? He might not be thinking that. It doesn't have to be a deterrent. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be. I'm not saying it doesn't have to be a deterrent.
It's not binary.
Here's the thing. Ultimately, clarity is everything, right? Being able to see the end in mind and having that clarity, that depth of vision. And for guys, that's oftentimes a lot of the time easier, because having a family does not come at an expense of a career, because the two are not mutually exclusive. Whereas for a woman, oftentimes it is, because it's very hard to direct equal amount of focus into both things. It's not to say that you can't have both, but which one are you going to prioritize ultimately, and being able to make those decisions very early on and decide what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get to that goal.
Even if we go with that premise, right? What do they do in the meantime? I guess that's my main question. Like, okay, if you want to sacrifice and give up everything for a man, that's cool. Like, my girl quit her job, moved to Miami, it's all good, right? But what the fuck do they do in the meantime?
I just got back from Fresh and Fit down in Brickell. Back home, safe and sound, North Miami. It's 3:48 in the morning. And wow, that was a really interesting episode. I did a little bit of research on Brendan Carter beforehand. He seemed like a really interesting guest. He seemed to, be a little bit more on the positive side. There's a lot of stuff that I really love about the red pill, don't get me wrong, but some of it kind of borderlines and verges on stuff that's a little bit nihilistic at times. And although it may be true and possibly rooted in, biology, evolutionary psychology, I think, at least from what I gathered from Brendan's message, even if that's true, does it really serve us to be focusing on that?
You might even have a good girl. You might even meet a girl who's like good, but you're gonna be looking for her flaws. You know what I'm saying?
He seems like someone who was red pill aware, who also held, a slightly different mindset and perspective. I was excited to talk with him. I mean, ultimately, we seem to come to some type of agreement, I guess, somewhere there in the end. But for a second, I really felt like he was committed to misunderstanding me and really trying to say that I just didn't want the girls to have any type of career or ambition or anything like that whatsoever. I definitely don't believe that.
What it sounds like you're telling these girls is, hey, you guys shouldn't do fucking nothing.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
I know. Cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is how it's coming off, right? So if I'm wrong, please correct me, right? It sounds like, you girls want to work, but you 18. You want to go to school, get a job. The fuck are you doing, man? You need to be out here looking for a baller, right? Like that.
That's not what I'm saying. No, that's where I'm saying where I see some contradictions, because there literally aren't enough high value men to take care of all of these women here. So I totally get it. But what I'm saying, all I can speak from is my personal experience, right? And I know from the age of 18 to 26, 27, right? Just from the last couple of years, I've made a lot of money. I've done a lot of things. I moved across the world. I've traveled, and none of it ever made me fulfilled.
Well, I do think that what Myron says and what, the RP, preaches in general is kind of true in the sense that, like, ultimately a high value man isn't really going to give a fuck about your income or your career or anything like that. But I think having and setting goals and the person you need to grow into in order to achieve those goals is ultimately what is going to, number one, just improve your character, your relationships in general, but also enable you to attract a high value man. In some instances, the other end of that is when you immerse yourself in your career and you forego everything else, you can't help but to adapt these more masculine qualities.
When you are entirely career driven, you're going to ultimately end up absorbing and exemplifying a lot of characteristics that maybe take you out of the ideal mother, the ideal partner, because oftentimes in order to succeed in your career, you do need to kind of take on more masculine characteristics, which can sometimes maybe make you not as sensitive as a partner, maybe not as empathetic as a mother, these various other things. So I think it's not more so about it's this or that, but more so being mindful of these things and these various different things that really impact the journey, and ultimately knowing where you want to go and making your decisions accordingly. It's not like it's this or that, but just having more awareness.
I feel what you're saying, right? But you can be this way at work and be a different way at home.
I do see it from both perspectives. I believe that women should be able to be liberated. They should be able to work. They should be able to do whatever they want. And ultimately, I'm not going to denote or dictate to anybody what's going to bring them the ultimate level of happiness or fulfillment. I can only speak from personal experience. However, we can also look to biology and evolutionary psychology. And like I mentioned, in the actual debate, there are 4 main happiness chemicals. And the most powerful one is the chemical of oxytocin. 2 of the chemicals are like selfish, and then the third one is also kind of selfish because it is still derived from yourself or how others perceive you. Oxytocin is a selfless happiness chemical, which you can only get from genuinely connecting with people in your life, being of service to those that you love, being in genuine committed relationships, having children, starting a family. You can also get it from your career, where you genuinely serve and benefit the people around you. But definitely the best cheat code for that and the easiest way to achieve that for a woman is for sure by starting a family.
Oxytocin. This is the best chemical of all. Oxytocin is the feeling of love and trust and friendship. It's all the warm and fuzzies. It's all the unicorns and rainbows. It's the reason we like to spend time with our friends even if we don't do anything with them. We just sit and watch TV. We love their company. When women give birth to children, huge surge of oxytocin in their body. This is what's responsible for the mother-parent, the mother-child bond.
Am I to say you can't derive happiness or your oxytocin from anywhere else? No, absolutely not. But biologically, this is what we are inclined and predispositioned to do.
I'm definitely not telling you guys to just work at McDonald's or something. I mean, I know that's something that some red pillers say, like, hey, I'd rather date a girl who just works this. Like, I don't agree with that. What I'm saying is just don't lose sight of what's actually really matters in here for what you want to pursue, for the expedient shit.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Don't lose sight of it, but
that's all I'm trying to say as well.
These girls are literally children.
The question here was literally what is your long-term goal, and is that conducive to finding a husband? That's what I was answering on the basis of.
And so I've realized, not only from my own experience, like I said, I've achieved many goals, and you're always looking towards the next thing. You think you're going to achieve the milestone, and then all of a sudden you're going to be happy. Life's going to be perfect, and it never ends up happening, because again, that's not how we're wired. That's not how it works with goals. Going back to the happiness chemicals, goals actually relate to the chemical of dopamine, which is a very powerful chemical, but it's also one of the most dangerous chemicals because it's very, very addictive. And that's why people get addicted to success. They get addicted to achieving their goals and setting that next goal, and they're always in the pursuit of something, but they never land on anything. They're never truly happy or fulfilled. And so it's very important to have both. It's important to have a balance. But the reason why I was so adamant in that conversation, in that debate, is again because I've achieved the goals, I've made the money, I've done this, that, and the third, and I know what I really want over the period of the next couple of years is to settle down. I want a family, I want kids. That's what's going to make me happy. And that is also evident in biology. Now, would I have admitted that as an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 22-year-old like the girls on the show? No, probably not. They need to go through their own experience. And I'm not trying to deprive them of that. I'm not telling them to go get a job at McDonald's or Starbucks or some of the other ridiculous stuff that the red pill guys say. But going back to the question, right? What are you prioritizing the most right now? And is that going to lead you to the high value man that you want in the future? I stick by my answer.
How many of you want to pay the majority of the bills when you're in a relationship with a man? Any of you? None of you. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so all of you are pretty much looking for a man to be a provider or a predominant breadwinner in the relationship by default, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what Amy was trying to describe, right, which I agree with and understand. Women, on average, most women want a relationship with a man who's going to be the predominant breadwinner and leader in the relationship, right? And be able to work kind of from a leisure standpoint, work because she wants to electively versus mandatorily versus the man is the main provider, right? And and what Amy is saying is that the pursuit of resources, income, and status, right, contradicts that to a degree. And the reason why is because A woman has a finite amount of time to utilize her beauty to get the highest status man that she can, because beauty is a woman's main commodity. Men sell success, women sell sex, right? So what she's saying is, if you prioritize your career in your 20s, which is great, I think what she's trying to say, and I'm going to kind of give it my insight on this, women need to go into it with their eyes wide open. And what I mean by this is, you guys that are single, that are young, pursue your career, go to school, chase the success. However, I think women need to have a shifting priority here, where if the right guy comes along that can be this predominant breadwinner, etc., you need to be able to shift that priority to him and put your career on the back burner. I think that's the most important and applicable advice for modern day women, because of course, most guys are not going to be able to support and take care of you, right, as a single breadwinner. Right,
Nigga, that's the same shit I was saying.
Yeah.
Doug, what are they going to do in the meantime? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I agree with you.
Yeah. So I think women need to be able to shift and understand that if you find that guy in that time with that window, like, you need to be able to shift. I think the issue is the girl that, let's say she's in med school or about to go to med school, and she finds that fucking guy, and he says, I want you to move with me, blah, blah, blah. And she says, no, I'm going to prioritize my career. Great. You can do that, but understand that that guy might not come along again. Are you okay with that? And I would argue that a lot of girls think that they could find another guy. A lot of the times you won't, because a lot of guys will say, I want you to split 50-50 with me. I want this to be a partnership, whatever, because we live in a very feminized world where guys don't understand being leaders and being dominant anymore. It's okay to chase a career, but be prepared to shift priorities if the right guy comes along, right? Because of course you got to earn for yourself, and we live in a world now where single income is very difficult to live off of. But if that guy comes along, are you prepared to make that sacrifice? Which I think you should make that sacrifice, because you can always go back to school. You can always gain a skill. You can always make more money, but you can't necessarily always find the right guy at your peak.
All right, guys, it is my bedtime. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I'm going to be linking the Fresh and Fit episode down in the description. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and do all the things. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, ring that notification bell so you never miss a future episode, and check out my Patreon for more behind the scenes content.